Hey chat, how are you? Um, I still have to set some things up. I think. Okay, this isn't working. Nope, that goes right there. Okay. So, I did a little research on Project Kazomboid, and it is much more complicated than I really should have given it credit for. Like, I really should have taken it a lot more seriously last time. I still don't know anything about it, really. Like, I'm still gonna suck really bad at it tonight, pretty much. But I'm just gonna try and learn some new things slowly, and I'm just gonna chill out on some Douglas Crockford, listen to him talk about JavaScript, and you can watch me like die a lot, like a lot, like not an amount that's even like forgivable, to be honest. Like it's unforgivable, but it's gonna happen anyway, so that's how it's gonna be. um okay, all right, so what should I need to set up one thing here. The audio on that is really low. This is going to be a lot of the stream is me just playing around in OBS, by the way, so not a lot going on at the moment. Bear with me.
I can say without fear
Okay.
that it is the least bad of a very large class of very, very bad books. So, yeah, it's that one, the Rhinoceros book. I recommend it as highly as I can recommend a JavaScript book.
What should I put here, chat?
The standard which defines JavaScript was defined by ECMA, the European Computer
Let's see what I
Manufacturers
got.
Association. We'll talk about them later. Unfortunately, the standard itself is not very good. It's very difficult to read and understand, which contributed to the bad book problem because authors could not go to the standard in order to improve their understanding of what the language does. Finally, JavaScript is a functional language in the way that Lisp and Scheme are functional languages, which puts JavaScript in a completely different class. But this is virtually unknown. So we'll be talking about this aspect of the language as we go forward. In 1992, Jim Gosling was sitting in his office at Sun Microsystems. He had been working on a language which was going to be a successor to C++. Gosling's a really smart guy, but not very good at naming things. And so his working title for the language was C++++. His friends told him, Jim, you can't call it that. You're going to have to call it something else. So he looked out of his window, saw an oak tree. And at that moment, the name of his language was changed to Oak. Gosling then got spun out into a new startup called First Person, which was going to be developing technology for interactive television applications. And Oak was used in those applications. That company failed. So in 1975, he was rolled back into Sun. After having failed in interactive media, they were sitting around trying to figure out, well, what do we do with Oak now? And in a conversation in a coffee shop, they decided that what it really needed was a new name. And so looking at the menu, Gosling decided to call it Java. At the same time, they decided that one of the first applications that would demonstrate of this new language was a web browser, because the web at that moment in time was starting to become
a little hot there, Mr. Crockford.
So they called the browser Hot Java. Having that browser having almost the same name as the language that it was written in caused huge confusion.
So I'm in the middle of like a really bad build. I might just try and kite some zombies.
A huge amount of excitement about the language itself. Meanwhile, at Netscape, they had looked at Java and decided this really isn't going to work in web pages. It's way too heavy, it's way too clumsy. To do APIs and web pages and do form validation and the sorts of applications that they anticipated, they wanted something much, much more. Brendan Eich was at Netscape at the time. His first idea was to do a dialectic scheme in the browser. His manager said, no, there's no way that Hawk will accept those practices. Do something that looks like Java or Visual Basic. Don't do anything big. Just a nice little scripting language and watch it. So he decided to base his syntax on Java.
I'm going to wash myself and make sure I'm clean. Okay. Can I just fill a mug of water and just carry it around with me? I guess so. I don't even know if this is important to do, but I'm just gonna do it. I got the blood off me. Should I drink out of the toilet? Okay. So gross.
Netscape had a really devious idea. He changed the name of LiveScript to JavaScript. I think he thought it was funny. I thought it was
I think the screwdriver is the item that I have that is the most effective for me right now. I'm gonna try and kill this zombie, see if it works. Oh shoot. Okay, there was more than one. I should have checked. I got bitten. I'm done. Shit. I could have put up a better effort. I killed 3 zombies. That's a big one for me specifically. Okay. Unemployed. Unemployed is an option. I can do that. I was unemployed. Okay. I'm gonna just load a preset.
That's no longer the
Been dilly-dallying for a bit there. Sure, Sally Boudoir. Sally Boudoir.
This is really controversial.
Okay.
A lot of the fashion right now is in strong typing, allowing compilers to check as much as possible before the program gets deployed.
Always crouching.
Loose typing, though, has overwriting benefits. There's much greater expressive power. Often programs tend to be easier to write. In this case, you don't get a choice. The language is loose typing, so if you can learn to like loose typing, you'll be more effective. It has objects as general containers. This was a brilliant idea. We'll talk a lot about this, where they have the unification of objects and hash tables. So objects are completely dynamic.
Look at all my dead bodies.
New methods can be added at any time.
I'm
Another
impressed.
key idea is prototypal inheritance.
I like that.
This is really distinct from classical inheritance, which we see in most other languages. In prototypal inheritance, objects inherit directly from other objects. There are no classes. This turns out to be a really powerful idea, but it's not.
The zombies are still out there.
So you see a lot of people trying to program in classical styles in a class-free language, and that's not effective. But if you learn to think in terms of prototypes, JavaScript can be extremely effective. The next powerful idea is Lambda. Lambda is the use of functions as first-class objects. This is something that we first saw in Lisp and Scheme. JavaScript has it. Really powerful idea. We're going to talk a lot about that. And finally, linkage through global variables. Because of the load
okay, I'm just going to go out the door here.
Have any sort of linker. So separate compilation units are all combined in a common global namespace, which turns out to have been a really, really bad idea. Security problems, reliability problems, everything. We'll talk about how to do that. JavaScript language has a small set of values. Those are numbers, strings, booleans, objects, special values, all. There's only one number type in JavaScript. No separate integer type, it's just a number. It's represented internally as 64-bit floating. It's also known as IEEE 754. It's also known as double. I think it's a stupid name for a number type. That's what it's called historically. It's fortunately something called double precision. The problem with floating point is that it doesn't map well to common understanding. Point 1 plus point 2 is not equal. You need to be really, really careful when you're dealing with things like money.
I got bitten. I got bitten. It's so frustrating.
So what you want to do if you're dealing with percent or with dollar values is multiplying by 100. There's a special value called nan, which stands for not a number. As a result of it's toxic, so any arithmetic operation which has nan as one of its inputs will have nan as its output. So if you go through a whole series of computations and at the end of all those equations and statements, the end result is nan, it tells you that someplace.
Okay, so this time around, I'm a police officer. No, fuck that. Never that. Never mind. Never that.
Nan is not equal to anything.
I don't care what the stats are. Burger flipper.
Nan is not less than nan. Nan is not greater. Also in JavaScript, even though nan stands for not a number, it is a number. The type of the value that is nan. There's a number function which can convert a value such as a string into a number. It's handy if you have something that you take out.
I wanted to give him a weak stomach. I don't know why, but that's funny to me. I really don't. I can't explain why that's so funny to me. That somebody who's a cook and a burger flipper would have a weak stomach. Okay, whatever. But they're brave, and that's more important than the other thing, whatever that thing was. But now I only have 1 point. Oh no, okay,
The reason for that is it stops at the first non-digit character.
C.
And if the first digit is 0, it is allowed to interpret
Asthmatic.
So the leading 0 could cause it to pick its optimal, and the next digit is not.
This person is totally fucked.
You get a result of 0 rather than a result of 8. So for that reason, I recommend when you're using parsing to always use a ratings. One mistake that JavaScript copied from Java was having a separate math object. Java did that so it could easily jettison math for applications in which you didn't want to pay for having a math library. But it turns out that's just not useful. JavaScript repeats the same mistake. So there are a number of useful mathematical functions available. These are some of them.
I need to just
Probably the most
reset this
useful
world.
is going to be the
It's
for
just
method. Math.for is thingy.
It's so funny to me that there's so many bodies of
JavaScript has strings, where a string is a sequence of 0 or more 16-bit characters. The encoding is, in Unicode speak, UCS2, not UTF-16. That's because JavaScript is created the difference between those two is that UCS2 is not aware of turns out for character type in JavaScript. So if you want to talk about just one character,
I don't think there's anything in this building actually that I can use. I don't know why I keep going back there.
You have to make a new string. Similar strings are equal. Double equal operator, which is good. Solid, not that long. And you can write string literals in either single quotes or double quotes. Both work the same way. Strings have not necessarily the same as the number of units.
I don't think there's anybody inside.
Then there's null, which is the value which isn't anything. Sometimes a useful thing to have.
Shit.
And then there's undefined, which is the value which isn't even that. Undefined is the default value of variables. Define a variable, don't initialize it. It's initialized for you with the value.
Okay. I handled myself okay there. Alright, I give myself a B+ for that one. Responded well to a fluid situation, if you know what I mean. I think.
Undefined is also the value that you get when you extract a member from an object that doesn't have that member. So it's the missing value. So I talked about truthy values and falsy values. These are the falsy values. False, null, undefined, the empty string, the number 0, and man.
It's
all other
it's
values,
just it's so funny to me that somebody would
everything else that we're going to see in the language
use a toilet.
So ones to watch out for
You
are
have to survive.
the string,
It's potable
0,
water. It has to
the same
be.
as number 0, so it is truthy. Also, the string false is truthy, even though it looks like it's false. Because all non-empty strings are truthy. Yes. That's a good question. Case sensitivity. All the keywords that we're going to see in the language are both. There's some methods we'll see which are generally. So those are the simple values. Everything else in the language is objects. So you may have heard that JavaScript is not an object-oriented language. I'm going to try to convince you that it is, because it's all about objects for the rest of the code. So, in particular, the style of object which is implemented in JavaScript is the dynamic object. Unification of objects and hash tables. The new object constructor produces an empty container of name value names, where a name can be any string and a value can be any value except one. So once we create an empty object, we can augment it by adding new members to it. Members can be accessed with dot notation or with subscript notation.
Maybe I'll try and make this place my base.
A little different from most other object-oriented languages. Even though these things behave like hash tables, there's no hash hash tables. In fact, the basic implementation might be need to bother with hash tables. Some object operators.
I don't know if that actually means anything, but whatever. I don't want to carry it around. So,
The difference between C and naming its types. Its identifiers of call some of those identifiers parts of the letter all variables, parameters, methods, function names start with the lower case letter. Except for constructors, which start with initial underbar should is reserved for implementation. They seem to be really popular. Dollar sign was added to the specification specifically for processors, program generators, and things like that. So it's recommended you not use dollar signs.
oh, they found me.
Some of the Ajax community
They know
is
I'm
far
in
above
here.
dollar signs. They're using dollar signs all over the place. So if you want to ignore the standard, go ahead.
I wonder if they can get
JavaScript
in.
has a bizarre
I think they can
reserved
get in through the
policy.
window.
All of
They can
these
definitely
words
get
are
in through the
reserved,
window, obviously.
but only the ones in boldface are actually used in the language. They got really heavy-handed and they chose to reserve. Also, they apply this list to places where they shouldn't be. When you retrieve certain things using the dot notation or member names, cannot be reserved names. This was just an error in the language which
So,
has not been corrected.
I'm kind of thinking it's just going to keep doing
There are
that
two styles of
for a
comments
very
in the
long
language.
time.
You can use slash as a prefix, or you can use slash and star as a bracketed comment. It has the same set of operators that you would expect to see in any C language. They work the same way as they would in any other C language.
Okay.
There are some differences. We'll go over that. The plus sign is used for both addition
Now I'm like
and
just totally
concatenation.
fucked, I guess.
The rule is if both operands are numbers, it adds them. Otherwise, it turns them both into strings and concatenates them. This was a mistake. Language which is loosely typed, this operator overload is just dangerous. You see a lot of mistakes made. For example, that expression, you're trying to add a concatenated dollar sign to an addition. And you end up
Okay. Oh shit.
Plus can also be used as a prefix operator, which will convert an operand into a number. So string 42 yields the number 42. You can add strings together by using the plus operator. The reason I put this one in parens was this one could be confused with.
I was already in here earlier.
You don't want that confused.
I sort of removed everything useful.
Division of two integers can produce a non-integer result. Divided by 3.
I lost my glasses.
Has equal and not equal operators. Fortunately, these operators can be typed. You can either here or produce a correct result. There's also exactly quality for both value and type. I recommend you use those instead. Netscape at some point recognized that they had made a mistake. And so the way they went correct is to fix double equals to be exact. That is triple equal to the language to be recursive. And Microsoft said no. We have to say recursive. So the language now requires triple equal to be exact. A little harder to type exact, go bang, bang, bang. Programs will run a tiny bit faster and probably be a little bit more reliable. JavaScript has a logical AND operator, a guard operator.
I got tired of running around. I think I kind of want to see if I can just reset this or just do a different situation. Like running around in the running around in like all this rain and shit. You know.
JavaScript has a large set of statements which look pretty much like the set of statements that you'd find in any of the other C languages. But there are a few differences, and we'll look at those. First off, it has label break, which is a really nice thing. I copied this from Java. So I can put a label on a loop, and then I can break from that loop. And so if I have nested loops or nested switches, I can bust out of the middle and get down to the bottom. It's really handy.
Okay, so
it has a for statement, which we can use to iterate, for example, through the elements of an array.
I was doing apocalypse.
I have an array called array.
And I guess I sort of assumed that it wouldn't be as bad as all that, but it really was. Like, it specifically says combat best avoided, so that's not my style. You know, I want to go all in on the combat right now. Later on, I'll do a more survivalist view. Like, I feel like I don't know enough about the game to do that, I guess is how I would put it. I don't know enough about the game to do a nuanced character with a nuanced build that is going to be able to survive a really difficult situation, which is what a zombie apocalypse is. It's a difficult situation. It's a difficult situation for everybody. So I'm just gonna go with a slightly easier mode, I guess.
End up having programs get broken when they work with other people's programs. So this is a disgusting thing you have to do, but I highly recommend all of your for statements. JavaScript has a switch statement just like the C languages, which provides a multi-way branch, but it has some advantages. First off, the switch value does not need to be a number. It could be a string or anything else. That's really, really handy. And the case value...
This seems like a combination that's pretty simple, pretty easy. So let's go there. Let's try that out.
It still has the same broken switch statements and everything else.
Burglar. I know this class is good. Can hotwire vehicles. Yeah, so with this trait, from what I understand, from something my brother told me,
an exception object called new constructor. Or you can use an object literal.
It's just a lot better for like just sneaking in the cars and shit. Into cars, breaking them open, hot wiring them. I want to do that.
So JavaScript has a try statement. You can try some bit of code, and if an exception is thrown in it, It will be caught in the catch clause.
But
Because we
it
don't
puts you
have
at negative
classes in this
6, so
language, there
I
will only be
have
one
no
catch clause.
choice. I
We'll
have to
one more
select
exception class. And
something
your catch
here.
clause
Let
will
me
then
see.
have to determine what sort of exception it is and decide if it wants to handle it or throw it on.
Restless sleeper, because I'm not even gonna last long enough, really. Or maybe I will this time around because it's an easier mode. But anyway, okay, that puts me. I'm a burglar.
There are exceptions which are built
Who is
into
a
the
restless
JavaScript
sleeper.
system itself. So the JavaScript engine knows how to throw all of these exceptions.
Let's save this
And all
preset.
of these exception constructors are available to you as well, so you can throw any of these, or you can make up your own exceptions.
The sleepy burglar.
JavaScript has a with statement, which was intended
burglar
as a convenience for dealing with objects.
Burglar,
But
I think.
there's an error in the way it was conceived, and so I don't recommend you use it. It's ambiguous and error prone.
Wow.
So here's an example.
Wow.
We have a with statement with some object.
Wow.
Now, it could mean O.foo.
It's not very fashionable. I don't like that. Nobody. It's a zombie apocalypse. There's no reason to do that. There is no security state anymore. You don't need to conceal your face. There's no need to do that.
Either of them, depending on what O is.
It's not under hat. What is? Oh, there we go. Baklava. There we go. Okay. Alexis Hannah. Okay. Besides the baklava, everything about Alexis fit is good. Take notes. It's a good fit. It's a good casual fit. Is what's important here. It's casual. It's a casual style for a casual day. So, okay. All right, whatever. Play.
Don't specify types of this language.
These are the end times.
A or something like that. You just declare that it's a variable. Optionally,
there was no hope of survival.
So I can say var number of errors initialized to 0, or I can just.
This is how you died.
If you don't give an initialization value, it will be set to undefined for you. In JavaScript, blocks do not have scope. This is a departure from all of the other C languages. I think maybe it was a bit of laziness when they were writing the compiler. This causes people to think incorrectly about variable scope. There is only function scope in JavaScript. So if you declare a variable any place inside of a function, it's visible everywhere in the function. And if you declare a variable twice in a function, it only gets created once. There's no error for that. Yeah, so this was a mistake, and the mistake persists in the language. So, yeah.
What's that last part? Hold on.
There's no error for that. JavaScript has a function statement, which is used for give a list of variables separated by commas.
I really hope that.
If you don't give an initialization,
I really hope chat can like hear.
It will be.
Cause like I didn't even bother. I should have like, you know, done all my audio levels beforehand. I sort of was like, I'll just do it off the seat of my pants and hope that this, like, for all I know, this entire stream I've been muted. I mean, I'm getting an input signal, you know, in OBS. There's a signal coming through. But for all I know, I don't know. I could just go check my stream, literally. But I'm being lazy. I'll have to figure out a system of doing that effectively while I'm live. I'm learning a lot of things as I go.
There's no error for that. Yeah.
Okay.
So this was a mistake, and the mistake persists.
Dish towel and roasting pan. I don't think I need that right now.
Right.
A lot of food. A lot more food than I would expect. More food.
That's another good
oh no,
question.
it's the same container. Okay, hold up.
JavaScript has implied globals. So if you, yeah. So we'll talk about these more later. But if you create a variable and forget to declare it, JavaScript assumes that you meant it to be a global variable. So for example, if you forget to define I,
How do
you've
I
created a
measure
global
how
variable
hungry
called
I
If you make
am?
that same mistake in 2 places, there's a good chance your program is going to fail. JavaScript has a return statement, actually 2 forms of them. One in which it returns an
Guess
expression,
it would
and
just
the other
tell me
where it
if I was.
appears to return
Where
nothing.
is that?
Except in JavaScript, every function will return a result. There is no void type in JavaScript. So if you have a function which does not return something explicitly or falls through the bottom, that function will return the undefined value. Except in the case of constructors, in which you return the new object. We'll talk about those in a little bit. So we said everything else in the language is objects. And objects can contain data and methods.
Okay. You know what? I can't figure it out. I guess it'll just tell me if my character is gonna get hungry.
So objects in this language
Or something.
are
I don't know. I wish there was like
an collection of name value pairs.
I wish there was a number
strings.
I could see.
Values are any type, including other objects. It's very good for representing records and trees. You can think of every object as being a little database. We also have an object literal notation in this language, which is extremely convenient. It provides a way of conveniently creating a new object. Again, the names can be strings, but names can also be simply names. So in some cases, the quote marks around keys are optional. The values can be any expression. Colons separate the names and values. Commas separate the pairs. Object literals can be used anywhere that a value appears. So here's an example of an object literal. I declare a variable called myObject, which contains this object, which has a name and a goto and a grade and a level. So you can think of it as creating this little table in memory in JavaScript, where these are the keys and those are the values. And then I can access that material in the language. I can say myObject.name, and that will set the name to Jack B. Nimble. I also use the subscript notation. I can say myObject sub, the name, and go to, and it will do the same thing. So these 2 notations.
I feel like there has to be one weapon in the house.
Except they're not in this case, because goto is reserved word. And one of the errors in JavaScript is that I cannot have a reserved word in this position. I can have a string in that position. So that's why you need to be aware of the reserved word policy.
These people love books. They love getting books and putting one book in each dresser. Just in case, so that like while you've been walking from this bed all the way to this bed, you needed a different book. Or if you're halfway between the two, well, there's a book here for you.
So I then assign to that object a name, a goto, a grade, a level.
That wasn't.
And then I return it. Okay,
that wasn't funny.
The other way I could have made my object would be to call a maker function and then pass the material that I wanted to construct with.
Okay, what's in here?
Now this maker function could get arbitrarily complex, and instead of just taking the values it's passed and doing stuff with it, it could go do computation or call other functions or look at other variables or whatever in order to decide how to build it. But this is sort of the simplest kind of function that makes an object. So here's
scary.
We've taken that same object and we've made the object a little bit more complicated because we've added a format field to it now. And its type is an object. So this shows an example of how we can have nested objects in this notation. But all crunched up like that, it can be really hard to read. So this can be a lot easier to understand if you take advantage of pretty printing. See, in this case, it's very clear what the structure of this object is going to be.
I just think maybe later.
I have a trailing comma here.
Maybe later I'm going to
need
to eat these.
Sometimes, so I know. We'll look at an example later of how that becomes a problem. So we can use an object literal any place we can expect a value.
Just like scooping up 2 dead mice out of the trash
or variable, we can stick one of these in
and putting them in the fridge.
So can pass an object to my function, and my function doesn't know if this was a predefined thing or something I defined on the spot. It just gets an object with all those values in it. It can be pretty handy. Or here again, I'm going to throw an exception. An exception object should have a name type and a message. I can just make it dynamically. I don't need to create a constructor or call constructor to throw an exception. I'll confess I once wrote a really horrible API in JavaScript. I had, it was some years ago, I had a super div constructor which took like 10 or 20 parameters. And it was really hard to remember what the parameters were. And it turned out most of the time you didn't.
Yeah, combat is much easier.
And later we figured out that some of them really shouldn't have been parameters at all.
But also there aren't as many of them around.
This list. But by then the API was stuck and we couldn't take them out without breaking it. Had I been smart, what I would have done instead was pass an object to this thing. And that object would allow me to have what would practically be named parameters. It wouldn't matter what order they're in. It could detect when it's missing and provide suitable defaults. It would have been a much cleaner API. So generally, if you find yourself doing something with more than a couple parameters in, step back and think about something that fits. One of the nice things about objects in this language is that they can be augmented. You can take an existing object, add new stuff to it, and you can put new members in there. And do that simply by a simple so I want to make it bigger. I don't need to commute fast. I just do it. If I decide to add a color model member to the format of the and boom, it's got it. So the general pattern is I have an object, a key for that
so
object,
fuck
and the
now.
value that I'm assigning. And this works anytime for any object.
Just may as well do some. Okay.
Objects are created with a secret link to another object. This is the method by which inheritance is achieved. Objects are able to
New character.
If we attempt to access a
Actually, no. We're still going to keep burglar, but it's not going to be sleepy.
go to the object that object was linked to and see if it has
Very underweight, skinny bitch. Graceful, though, like a swat.
This is the basic fundamental operator. We'll talk a lot about how this works.
Graceful burglar. Graceful burglar. Oh, wait. Hold up. I didn't add the trait. Oh, okay. Okay, I think it updated it. Okay. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Then I can go ahead and start augmenting this. So I can assign it a name. That creates a name in this object. No change to this one because I'm doing the same to this one. Okay, then I'm going to increment its level.
I think I broke the game. I broke the game, I think.
I went to this one. It's got a level. 3 plus equal, add 1 to it, store it here. That creates a 4 here. And then again, I can augment it by adding another thing here. But the other, let's see, if I ask this, my new object.
Sleepy burglar, let's just do that again. Since the game
here,
doesn't want
so
to.
it'll return A.
Gracia Spence. Okay, let's go.
So linkage provides a simple inheritance mechanism. Any object can inherit from another object. languages have classes, methods, constructors, modules. JavaScript has
Staying
functions,
hydrated.
functions, work, all of those things. Instead of classical inheritance, we have prototypal inheritance. It accomplishes the same things, but it does it differently. It has, I think, greater expressive power, but it's different. If you don't understand that it's different, it's going to be really frustrating. So instead of organizing objects into classes, new objects can be made that are similar to existing objects and then customized. Object customization is a lot less work than making a class, and it's a lot less overhead. One of the keys to doing that is the object function. The other key
Okay,
is
actually, I'm going to
functions in
take a
general.
small
And we'll talk about how those
intermission.
work. Yeah.
I just need to take a quick break for a moment here. Be right back.
Objects or arrays in JavaScript are unusual. They're not
I'm gonna
like in
turn
most other
crockford
languages
backward.
because array
Let's go
inherits from
crockford.
object. The way arrays work, typal inheritance.
Just in case
We'll
somebody
talk a
was
lot about how
listening.
this works. So let me put in a picture for you. Maybe it'll make it clearer.
So the reason we just took
So
that
I'm going to
intermission
make my new object
was
and I'm going to
because
have
I
it
saw
inherit from
a
my old
bug.
object.
I saw a bug crawling
making
across
it with the
something in
object
my
function.
room, and I wanted to
So what it creates in memory is
the bug
a new
somewhere
object,
else.
which is an empty object, which contains the secret
But then I
pointer
decided
to my
I might
old
as well
object.
take a break for a second and drink some water and finish my tea.
Then I can go ahead
Then
and
just
start
go back
augmenting this
to
one.
dying
So
over
I
and
can
over
assign
again
it a name.
in Zombieland.
That
So,
creates a name in this object.
thanks for
No
tuning
change to
in
this one
for
because I'm
that.
doing the assignment to this one.
Let's see.
Okay, then I'm going to increment its level. Now this one initially didn't have a level. So it went to this one, it's got a level, 3 plus equal, add 1 to it, store it here. That creates a 4 here. And then again, I can augment it by adding another thing here. But the other, let's see, if I ask this, my new object what its grade is,
I should comment.
here, so it'll return A. It inherits
My
that
play
value
style
from
is very frustrating because I continuously space out.
Any object can inherit.
But I promise improvements will be made
Some
to
languages have classes, methods,
the way that I
constructors,
play
modules.
this game, which is
JavaScript has functions.
just terrible right
JavaScript's
now.
functions
Very.
work of all of those.
If anybody has even an
So
ounce of
classical
experience
inheritance,
in
we
this
have
game,
prototypal
this must be the most frustrating
It
thing I've ever
accomplishes the
watched.
same things, but it does it differently.
But let's go.
It
Okay.
has,
What was I
think,
doing?
greater
I
expressive
don't know.
Power, but it's different. If you don't understand that it's different, it's going to be really frustrating. So instead of organizing objects into rigid classes, new objects can be made that are similar to existing objects and then customized. Object customization is a lot less work than making a class, and it's a lot less overhead. One of the keys to doing that
I have
is
to
the
stop
object
and explain like
function.
every
The other
3
key is
seconds.
functions
Oh shoot.
in general. And we'll talk about how those work. Yeah.
Oh, something's coming.
What happens to the object if the old object is defined? Let me go back a little bit. Okay, so
I have to
suppose
explain,
we say
'cause-
my old object equals undefined to make it go away. Well, this object still exists.
I
So
keep
my
cracking
old
up
object
because there's something that's
was
so
a
funny
reference to
about the
this,
way they walk.
Value. This value still exists. So this linkage is not broken. But the other thing that could happen is I could change this guy's grade to B. The value this guy inherits is now B. So he can be sensitive to the dynamic state.
I'm sorry,
of
I
this
just
object. Or I could delete
I really
grade member from
can't
this.
get over how
Now he
funny
no
it
longer has a
looks.
grade.
It's so serious.
Yes.
It's such a serious way to walk.
That's a good question. So what happens to this 4? Once the level is stored into this object, we no longer look at this one. So this one's level is
Okay,
now-
moving on.
One thing which
We're
is
trying
odd,
to
though,
at
is
least.
if this guy ever deletes his level, he'll now have this level, because this one will now shine through again. So sometimes deleting things doesn't cause them to disappear, it causes them to appear to mutate.
I'm thinking there's almost certainly something in the building.
It's only single inheritance, so you only get one of these arrows per object. But as we'll see, you can have long linkages of these objects. Yes. Is there any way to change the linkage after the fact? There is in Mozilla. They have a non-standard thing, and we'll look at that briefly in the advanced JavaScript class. I don't recommend it because it's not standard and it won't work anywhere else. And I think it's probably a bad idea anyway. Yeah. Does JavaScript cope with circular linkage? You can't, because an object can only be made from an existing object, and those linkages cannot be changed. So there is garbage collection in this language. You'll be glad to know that, and it's mark and sweep. So cycles do get reclaimed. Okay, so you can have this link going to another object in which you inherit properties. The end of that link chain is always directly or indirectly object.prototype. It's always the last in the chain. So object.prototype is a place in the system where the system
I have no idea what
provides
is useful and
built-in
what
methods for
isn't.
you.
It's the thing.
It turns out that
That's why I
they're not
keep
very
changing
useful,
my mind
unfortunately.
on taking things.
There is one that we saw earlier, has own property, which is a little bit useful. Surprisingly, there is no copy method for objects in JavaScript. It seems like an omission, just doesn't have it.
I want all this baking shit. I love to cook.
Method.
Got all this baking
Also
shit.
seems
I
like
need
an
to get it
omission.
back to my base.
You can use the equality operator, which tells you if two references are the same object.
Is there anybody in the
But it
room
doesn't
with
tell
us?
you if two objects contain the same stuff. JavaScript just doesn't have that. Seems odd, but they don't. So there are three ways in which we can make a new empty object, which we can then stuff full of stuff. We can use the new object constructor, or we can use an empty object literal, or we can
Book.
call the object function.
Is there a
passing
book
it
in here? There's a book in here too.
All
There's
three
a
of
book in
these
here.
will
They have
do
a book
exactly
right,
the same thing.
right
Bring
there.
Exactly the same result. I recommend the empty object literal because it's the smallest, and once you learn to read it this way, it's also the most expressive.
Okay.
Objects are passed as, or objects can be passed.
The music
as
got very
arguments to
dramatic.
functions.
Is there a reason
They
for
can be
that?
By functions, objects are always passed by reference. They're not passed by value. The double equal.
I don't know why the
triple equal
music
operator
is so dramatic
compares
all of a sudden.
Object
It's worrying
references,
me.
but not values. So it can return true only if both
I'm so
operators
worried
are
that
the
I
same
might.
object. Doesn't help if they're similar objects. There's a delete.
I'm gonna close this door.
Which can be used to delete elements from an object.
Okay.
Say delete the object and then
I'm gonna read this
sub
book.
the name, dot, actually changes its
Did I
value
read it that
to
quickly?
does the same thing.
Oh no, it's reading now. Okay,
Objects,
there we go.
arrays in JavaScript
We're reading the
are
book.
unusual. They're not like in most other languages because array inherits from objects.
See, the music has me concerned. I'm
The way
trying to.
arrays work
I'm
is
waiting
that
for the music to
array
end. I
indexes
want the music to stop
are
because it's
converted
worrying
into
me.
strings and then used
Music
as
is very
names for
dramatic.
retrieving values. They're not the
Like some great foe
position
approacheth.
indexes into a list.
I'm just like hanging out in the house.
It's really efficient for sparse arrays and not very efficient for almost all other applications, including the ones that we write. It does have one advantage.
We're gonna read all the
There's
books.
No need
We're gonna read all of them.
to declare the length of an array when you create it, because it doesn't matter. And you also don't have to give the type of the stuff going into the array because that doesn't matter. Yes. What's the threshold of sparse? Pretty sparse. If you've got like 1% population in your array, this is a really effective way to do it. For anything in which memory tends to be pretty linear, this is not an efficient implementation. Arrays have a length member, which tells you, which looks like it should be the number of elements in the array, but it's not. It is one larger than the highest integer subscript, which, depending on the composition of the array, may or may not be the same as its actual length.
My character likes to read a lot. They like
What
reading.
that does is allow
They're
you
really
to
interested in
introduce
reading. Reading is important, so
the code
you can't really disagree
all
with
of
them,
the
can
members of the
you?
array.
You're reading Moby Dick.
The length operator memory does that. There are array literals in this language, which work similarly to the object literals. The array literal is in square brackets with values separated by commas. So here I can make my list, which contains these three vegetables. And then I can append to arrays. Since arrays don't actually have a length, they don't actually have an allocation, we can add new stuff.
Just so many books.
So if
Books everywhere. Okay.
My list at my list dot length, this will be 3. So we assign.
Yes, we want the food. We definitely want the food.
Give it barley.
Want
that
that.
changes the length of the array.
Want that.
Because the length is always 1 bigger than the last index that we assign to it. The last biggest that we assign to it.
Take the dish towel.
Use the dot notation with arrays. There's confusion with dots and numbers. But we can use the subscript notation. Empty brackets is the preferred way to do it.
Okay, I've got all this stuff. I just need to get it back to base, which is the house across the street.
Does this create something similar to having an object label in which the keys are quote 0, quote 1, and so on? Very, very similar. The difference is that it also has array nature, which means that the length member means something.
What was the point of that?
It also inherits the array methods.
Why did the music stop?
Otherwise, it's the same stuff.
I don't get it.
So arrays have methods. These are some of them. We can concatenate arrays together. We can join an array, which means we turn all of its members into strings and concatenate them all together.
It's a normal way to walk.
We can push and pop things on the ends, so we can treat it like a stack.
This is how I walk.
Splice it. We can
This is how I walk.
surgery to it.
When Emma walks, this is how she
We
walks.
can delete members from an array the same as we can with objects. It doesn't do what we think it does. It removes the element from the array, but it leaves a hole. It doesn't change the subscripts of the other members. If we want to get rid of the hole, we need to use the splice method. So let me show you an example of that. I've got an array.
Such a serious way to walk.
I delete subscript 1 because arrays start from
Not
0.
a good situation.
We end up with this structure. The indexes of these two didn't change. If we want to close up the hole, then we could use splice, which says starting from the first index, delete one thing and insert nothing in its place. So that will then give us this result. Since objects and arrays are so similar in this they're almost the same thing. When do you use it? In fact, if you use the wrong one, it'll probably work. So this is how you detect use objects when the names are arbitrary strings, and use arrays when the names are sequential arbitrary. Don't be confused by the term associative array. I think that means you use an array. In this language, arrays and objects are both associative arrays, but the thing you think that an associative array is the object. Okay, so we talked about how objects have these secret links by which they inherit things. Arrays also have secret links, and they get linked to array.prototype. You don't get to choose with arrays, and we'll talk about the implications of that later.
Before I die.
So if you get a value,
where do I put the cereal?
How do you determine if it's an array
Pasta.
or if it's an object? As we'll see later, there's a type of operator in JavaScript, but it doesn't help us to do this. The other is we can say array instance, value instance of array. That returns true that we think it's an array. Although neither of these work if the value came from another frame. We'll talk later about why that is. This is an issue in the language, which I'm hoping gets fixed.
I always need a moment to reflect. I'm sorry. When each character dies, I take a moment to reflect on their life, their short life.
So you can't use arrays to make things. The reason is that the thing that gets reduced,
I forgot her name, so.
it's not going to have array nature.
Okay.
But what you can do is you can augment an individual array by assigning methods to it. Is underneath it's able to receive any kind of value including functions and any kind of key as an
I have all this food now, so maybe I'll be a chef.
Functions can be passed and returned and stored.
I won't be able to break. I still want to be able to break the cars though. Okay.
Also, in the sense that JavaScript needs an object, a function inherits from object and can be valued. Sounds really strange how a function remember, a function could contain other functions. What does it mean for a function to have methods? We'll look at this. Okay, JavaScript has a function operator, which we use to create function objects or function values. And it takes an optional name and a parameter list and a block of statements. It looks a lot like the function statement. But we can use this any place in the language where we can have an expression.
I'm making a statement.
So
I'm making a statement against books and book learning.
We can assign functions to variables.
I'm an illiterate character. My character is illiterate.
What JavaScript calls a function, other
I'm
languages
making
have
a
called
statement
lambda.
about all the books.
Power, and unlike most
there are too many. I have to. This is a serious.
It's not the kind of thing that
this is a serious discussion about the books. There are too many. There are too many books. I don't have enough. It's a zombie apocalypse, and I don't have enough time to read all these fucking books.
Which looks a lot like the function expression. And it turns out that one is just a shorthand for the other. So when you say a function statement, what you actually end up doing is creating a variable.
Now I have 8 points. What should I spend them on? What should I
function statement
spend all these points on?
This function foo expands to creating a foo variable which has that function as its value. Some people get confused about, can I have functions with the same names as variables? Do they interact with each other? The answer is yes. There's one namespace for both of those things.
I like eagle-eyed. Eagle-eyed seems like a good one.
Functions do not all have to be defined at the top level or on the left edge of the screen. Functions
eagle-eyed plus cat's eyes.
Of other functions.
But illiterate.
It turns out to be a really useful thing, but it raises questions of scope. You know, what does a function know and when does it know it?
Okay.
So the rule is an inner function has access to all of the variables and parameters of the function it's contained within. This is known as static scoping or lexical scoping.
It's mirror Duggar. Let's go.
The other way to do this is dynamic scoping. It turns out for most applications, static scoping is better. So this is one of the things that JavaScript does.
I forgot about this.
Continues even after the parent function is returned. This is called closure. That sounds really weird.
Yeah.
What does it mean that it still has access to a parent's function after the parent function has returned?
We need more of that. More of that.
This is something that's really popular right now in Ajax applications, where it changes the color of something from yellow to white. We're going to do it with a fade function.
Your former self, when you reincarnate in the game world, your former self, you have to overcome it. You have to ascend to a higher level of being. So it's important to crush it with your foot.
And then we'll create a step function.
Stamp on the face
what it does, but we'll create a step
of your previous existence.
And then we'll call set timeout. And what that does
just
is
violently, as violently as you can,
the system will call the step function.
Crush it, blot it out of existence, move on.
Returns and it's finished.
It's important. It's an important life skill. It's an important life skill for everyone, to be honest.
Suddenly, 100 milliseconds later, the system wakes up and calls.
And I have a whole fridge stacked of. Look at all this shit.
It defines H, which is the hex value of the level. What is level?
Good.
It's that. It is the value of the parent's variable. And then it gets the computes the color for the DOM background color. What is DOM?
I don't know. I don't know if I can handle playing this game.
It's not the value of the variable at the time that the
Really,
function was
only
created.
because I
It's
can't
actually
seem to
got
stop
a
laughing
connection to that parent's
at
variable.
just about everything.
So down here, we look to see if level
I,
is
I,
up to 15
I
yet. If it's
genuinely
not,
don't know
we
why.
will
Maybe I'm
increment.
just
It's
losing it
not
a little
incrementing
bit.
a copy.
It's
It is
possible,
incrementing that variable.
but
Okay, it still has access to it.
I'm just
And
cracking
then
up
it will
at
arrange
the
to call
dead
itself again in another
mouse
100 milliseconds.
and rat.
We'll keep doing this until it gets up to 15.
I just have it hanging out in my fridge.
Now, what happens if we want to fade two things at once? Okay, so I'll call fade on that and fade on that. Will those two calls of fade interact with each other? No, because each of these functions, when it's invoked, has its own scope. So we can have multiple invocations of fade going at the same time. They will not interfere with each other because all of these are local variables through the fade function. So we talk about closure and inner functions and this a lot more in the advanced class. But this is probably the murder one in the other part of the feature. This is something that formerly we only saw in A. This is the thing that makes JavaScript worth your attention and why we can afford to look past its other failings, because this is the first Lambda language to go mainstream. This is something that the MIT guys have not been able to do before.
Is JavaScript the first Lambda language to go mainstream?
Okay, functions are objects, so they can contain name value pairs, just like
Wouldn't that be Lisp? Where does
Lisp
Lisp
serve
fall
the
in
same
there?
purpose as static members do in some of the classical languages. So if we have a maker function or a
I guess
constructor
Lisp
which
isn't mainstream
acts
enough
like the
for
constructor of a
crockford.
class, it can contain methods and other things.
It's
which
obviously
are
not
useful
as
to your class.
mainstream as, like, you know, the web.
Since
The
functions
browser.
are values, they can be stored in objects.
This
and
makes
when
no sense at all
function
if
is
I
stored in
didn't
an object, we call
do
it
the audio input correctly and you haven't been able to hear what the fuck
there are some
Mr.
rules
Crockford
on
is
function
talking about
invocation. If a function
all
is
the
called
time,
with
or
too
if you're
many
just not
arguments,
listening
the
because
extra arguments
it's
are
an
ignored.
absurdly boring
The
topic.
function just receives the
That's
values
part of
of
the
that
reason
argument.
it's here.
If a function is called with
Just
too
trying to bore the
few
shit out of you.
values, then undefined is
But it's
used
like
to fill in
something
missing values.
that
There is no implicit
it's good
type
background
checking of the
ambience
arguments,
when you're doing
and there's
tedious
no checking
bullshit,
of the number of arguments. So
which
you
is
bring that
dying
down
a lot
to
in a zombie game. You
There are
know.
4 ways to call a function. There is the function form, the method form, the
Anyway.
constructor form, and the apply form. We'll talk about the apply form some in the advanced class, but we'll talk about the first 3 here. First, let's look at the method form. Here we've got an object on which we're invoking a method. Then we have dot or substring,
Can't read it.
name, and the arguments. When the function is called in this form, in addition to its regular parameters, it gets a special extra parameter called this. And this will be bound to this object. So it gives that function access to the object that it was invoked in. This allows the object to have that reference and allows us to reuse functions
I'm illiterate.
in lots of different objects or different inheritance chains. And it depends on the
I'm
invocation to
illiterate,
tell it,
chat.
which object it's linked to. Then there's the function form, which we don't have a function prefix on.
Once this character
just have a function
is dead,
value
I'm out for the night.
In this case, this gets bound to the global
I need to,
object,
like, have a glass of
which
water or
is not very
something,
useful,
because
and it could be argued this was a mistake in the design of the language.
I'm not really making a lot of
Ways it's a mistake
progress,
is that it
and
makes it
I
really
can't
hard to
seem to,
write
like,
helper functions
not
over,
crack up. Like, halfway
because the helper
between.
functions in the method don't have access to the this of the parent.
Okay, focus.
So one way we
Focusing.
get around that,
What am I gonna do next? I don't know.
interfunction have
I'm gonna
access
go
to
scout
this.
out another
If we
house.
define a variable called that and assign this to that, then the inner function can use that because that will be available in closure and scope, and we can use it. It's annoying that we have to do this. Again, it's another error in the design of language, but it's in there. And finally, there's constructor form. And it looks like function form, except there's a new prefix. When a function is called with the new operator, a new object is created and assigned to this. So it's another implied parameter going into the function. If the function does not have an explicit value, then this would return a function instead of so to summarize, depending on the information string, this can be either the global object or the object from which the method was obtained, or the object.
There's too many of them.
This function also have access to another
I guess I have to run now.
called arguments. So when the function is invoked, the additional parameter is given to it. Arguments is an array-like object which contains everything that was passed. So we talked about how if there were extra arguments, they get ignored. They don't get ignored now. Arguments array will deliver everything that got passed. So it allows us to move over everything. We can actually check the number of parameters in that way. Unfortunately, it's not a real array in the way that JavaScript is. It's an array-like object. So it doesn't have access to the array methods. Its length attribute doesn't really work. It's a bit of a problem. So here's a way to use it. Say I want to write a sum function. I'll pass it any number of numbers, and however many numbers it gets, it's going to add them all up and return the result. So we're going to set n to be arguments.length, and then open the loop till n, and as we go, we're going to get the next argument and add it. Then, so this provides a convenient way of writing functions that take a variable set. So one of the
I just
really powerful
successfully
things in JavaScript is that we can extend
kited
the built-in types.
those. Oh shit! There's something around.
I can extend all of the objects
There's
at
something
once
inside.
by extending
I gotta get out of here.
type, or I can enhance all the arrays by assigning to array.prototype and so on. So let me show you an example of this. A trim method is a method on strings which will get rid of...
I spoke
white
too
spaces
soon. I
in
spoke
the
much too soon.
Unfortunately, JavaScript neglected to include such a method, which is unfortunate, because that's a really
I apologize. That was really the worst combat you could possibly see in this game. I did the developers a disservice with how horribly I abused their combat system and failed to do the simple task of killing two basic zombie units of gameplay. The zombies got me, and now I am a zombie, so I think I've run out of juice for the night on the zombie game. So I think that's gonna be it. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let's see.
JavaScript has a type model which helps us to determine what the type is.
I don't know the etiquette of like just raiding a random channel in the streamer that you haven't really interacted with ever. That's kind of weird. So I'm not really gonna raid anybody yet. The one other person that, you know, Lulu, if you're out there, I would totally have raided you right now. So, anyway, let's see.
Which also happens to have zeros in
Whoops.
that spot.
Wrong
You
scene.
wouldn't notice it. The guys at Microsoft did because they copied that
Okay.
JavaScript. And,
Goodbye, chat.